Hey everyone, welcome. We're just getting started for the Power Connection chat. Today we're talking about the power relationships to boost your career. And as we get going, I'm just going to start inviting people to the room and sending out reminders to everyone. But Indra and Melanie, my co-hosts, are here, and our guest speaker is also here. Marie, I'm sending you an invite to speak, so just make sure you accept that so you can be on stage and be part of the speaking. There we go. So, are you ready to get going, Marie? Thanks so much for being here. Are you excited about this?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Bobby. This is great.
Yeah, I'm delighted. And I see Indra and Melanie here as well. Indra, how's it going? How was your weekend?
Hi, good morning, Bobby. It was wonderful. Had a wonderful weekend. Had a couple of great hikes up in the mountains. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and everybody else as well.
Yeah, I did. It was the end of my birthday, fest, because my birthday was on Thursday. And so I spent, Thursday and then Saturday and Sunday celebrating my birthday with friends, family, dinner outings, lunch outings. So that was fine. And now technically it's over. So now I got to get back to work. So, but it was fun. And Melanie, how about you? How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. It was very chill, very relaxed. Just got some workouts in and, just kind of just trying to get caught up on work and just relaxing a little bit. So,
Awesome, awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start tweeting this out and also pinging a few people via the direct messages. So just to get more people in the room and we'll get going. But hopefully we'll have a nice conversation about this. We're talking about the power relationship to boost your career, and Marie is our guest speaker and expert on careers and career growth. So that's why she's here today. And this is being recorded too, so you'll be able to share the replay later on. And we encourage everyone to share the replay as well as share the insights as you're going along. And if you want to add a comment or ask a question or come on stage, you put your hand up or you click the bubble in the bottom right there to join us on stage. While I start pinging a few people, I'll let Indra introduce herself, then Melanie introduce herself, then Melanie, you can go over and hand it over to Marie to introduce herself.
Well, hello everyone. It's Indra Bartoni here. I am a producer, a TV host, and also the founder of the Positivity Vibe Tribe, a global community. I often host spaces here on Twitter Spaces. Actually, we have two regular spaces, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And actually, this Wednesday, we have our special guest of Bobby Umar. So that is going to be super exciting. And I hope everybody will join me, including everybody in the replay. And then also, warm welcome to everybody that joins the space, and feel welcome to put a comment or ask a question in the chat of our very special guest today, Marie Zimenoff. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. Over to you, Melanie.
thank you. And hi, everyone, and welcome. Yes, my name is Melanie Mitchell Wexler. I am a former recruiter and now a career coach. And I am also a LinkedIn expert as well as a job search strategist and a LinkedIn strategist as well. So, super excited to be here today and having Marie join us. Marie is one of our members of our Thought Leadership Branding Club, and I'm also a huge follower and fan of her and everything that she does with the career, with her career thought leaders consortium and the amazing things that she offers. So I'm excited to have Marie here today. And Marie, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Indra and Melanie and Bobby. It's so great to join you. I run Career Thought Leaders Consortium, which is a training and networking relationship building organization for career services professionals. So career coaches, resume writers, leadership coaches. We have a community on Facebook. We have a community on Mighty Networks where we host all of our trainings. And we just enjoy around the globe having a robust group of professionals that's always sharing. The career space is a lot to stay on top of with the economy and layoffs and, low unemployment, the weird space that we're in right now. And so we really help each other stay on top of the trends and build those relationships that we need to not only build our businesses, because not everyone is in business in our group. We also have people that are at universities and workforce centers and around the globe. So we enjoy our community. And of course, as a community builder, I love the topic of relationships and how relationships build people's careers. So excited to have this conversation and help people manage their career or their business through relationships.
Yeah, and I think relationships are the foundation of any sort of growth when it comes to business or career or even your personal life. If you want to build and grow in those areas, relationship building is a huge part of that journey. And for me, I'm a professional speaker by trade. I've done a thousand keynotes across four continents over the last 17 years, and I'm a five-time TEDx speaker. And what I can tell you is that everything I've done in my life and the things I've been most excited about and things I'm passionate about have been through the power of relationships. So it's a perfect opportunity, and it relates perfectly to the power of connection, of course. Connecting, relationship building, community building, and how we leverage that, I think, is going to be what we want to talk about today. So, with that, I encourage you to again retweet the tweet that we have the link up there in the nest. If you can tweet that out to your followers and get more people in the room, you can. If you want to use the arrow button at the top there and DM some of your friends to come in here, you can. You can also ask questions, come on stage. We'd love to have you share your thoughts or ask questions about your career growth, where you're at, how we can best help you, because we want to grow this room and get many people into the space. With that, I'm gonna start right away with Marie and ask her. The topic you chose, and I'm happy that you've chose it. But why don't you start getting into what are some of the things that are really important to us to get the conversation going, and why you brought up the topic.
Yeah, Bobby, I was thinking about why this is so important because we know relationships are important. But right now, there's something going on, and research is showing that people share relationships are the most important thing for them in their work. And especially Gen Z is saying that they are lonely at work. Everybody's saying that they're lonely at work, but I find it interesting that only 29% of Gen Z says they want a remote role. And this is a shift, right? We're seeing this shift of people saying, okay, we want to work remote, but we're lonely and we don't have the relationships that we'd like to have in life and at work because of COVID. And we're still struggling with some of that. And so I wanted to talk today about two things. One, how we can build relationships virtually better, and two, how we can get back in person and build those relationships in person. And this is funny because I was just talking to a friend who is a HR person, and her business is trying to figure out what they're going to do, right? Are they going to have people come back to the office? Are they going to stay remote? And she's very much an extrovert. She enjoys being around people. And she says, but I've just gotten so used to being at home and the flexibility. She has two young kids, the same age as mine. And she said the business wanted them to come back one more day a week. And even though she knew it was a good thing for her, it was hard to change her schedule, right? Hard to change her approach to life because we've gotten so used to it. So those are the two things that I want to talk about is the ways that we can use virtual technology, virtual events to really build relationships and not just attend and put the check mark on that we attended, and the ways that we can build them in person with the understanding that it isn't just important for the business, for our career success, but it's also really important for our mental health. And so there's a lot of reasons that we need to be having this conversation. What do you think, Bobby, Indra? Why are relationships so important for you and your clients?
I'll let Indra go first, then Melanie can share her thoughts.
Well, Marie, this is a really great question that you posed, but and I feel that we've gotten into a little bit of a habit of even instead, for me, I find that I am doing a lot of meetings still on Zoom, and I'm personally zoomed out. I don't know if anybody else is feeling like this, but so many meetings are on Zoom, and I'm not sure why people just don't want to. I mean, I get it. LA traffic is bad, but the thing is, it never kind of feels the same as being in person, right? So that's the thing that I feel like we're still in a little bit of a habit, and some of that could still be. I mean, it could be we're still in winter here. You know, we're at the end of winter, and maybe for some people there's there's not so much of a comfort level still. So I do understand all the different reasons, but I have noticed that, and I think the thing is, I guess I want to throw this back to you. Whose responsibility is it to create a comfortable zone with people so that they do feel that they can meet in person?
Oh, that's a great question. See if Melanie has anything she wants to add. We can circle back around to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not land on me for that answer quite yet. No, I think that, I mean, I need some time to think about that, Indra. So, but no, I agree with Indra. I mean, as a career coach, for me personally, making the transition from going from an office to an entrepreneurship, being by myself, I struggled with it. I struggled in the very beginning because I was so used to having people around me. And I've even, like, I'll just reference the fact that my son is, he's turning 28 this week, which is, I'm trying to accept that fact. But he was one of these that was going into the workforce right as the pandemic was, and I was worried about him because he's never been exposed in an office setting and things of that nature. And now he is in an office setting. And so he's like, no, I'm really going to make sure that that I'm going to events, that that I'm really working with my coworkers, because it hurt him early on in his career. And overall, I think, relationships in general are just such a vital part of who we are. And even in the pandemic, I struggled because I used to block off some time where I would just go to a Starbucks and then work remotely just to be around people and to have that kind of energy. And it's not even just so much the one-on-one conversations. It's really the energy of, like, sometimes it's just really help, it gets you inspired. It really, motivates you. And so I did that. And then I got that taken away in the pandemic and I had to kind of adjust again. So I just think that, relationships are vital to our, obviously to our existence. But when it comes to our careers and our development, in our professional development, I really think that we have to be able to come up with ways to, develop a connection, whether it's, reaching out one on one. But I'm like with Indra, I get zoomed out. Like, I'm like, no, I even just do one on one phone calls with prospective clients and my clients. And they're so shocked sometimes. And I'm like, no, I figure it's just best to let's just have a regular old conversation. So, again, I'm a real big, I see this developing in front of my clients all the time. So I'm excited about continuing this conversation.
Well, and I'm thinking about the in-person piece, and I want to talk a little bit about virtual events too, because I think there's a lot of opportunity to build relationships there that people kind of miss out on. But we can start with the in-person piece. And who does want to go to an event right now where you're packed in and it's all too much, right? Too busy. And I think event planners are thinking about that. How can they create enough space? So we actually had our first in-person conference for career thought leaders last April, and we hit it just in the right spot. The minute that we were flying out from the symposium, Philadelphia was putting their mask mandate back in place. So we hit this spot. Now we had boxes of masks out. We had less people at each table, and we had little pins that people could wear that said, I don't know, they tried to make something light of it, like I'm a hugger, or I can't remember what the other one was. It was red, so it was really obvious, like, stop red. And it didn't say, like, I don't want to hug, but I can't remember what it said. I'll have to get them out because we'll bring them again in March when we're having our in-person event in San Diego in March. But we did, as an event planner, say, okay, we need to have more space. We need to have less people at each table. We need to have something that tells people whether I want to hug or I don't. Now, just kind of a sidebar here, that hugging actually spreads less germs than handshaking. You think about it, right? Our hands tend to carry a lot of germs. But when you hug someone, your face usually doesn't directly align with their face unless you're in the Europe and you're, doing the cheek kissing thing. We don't do that here in the US. So there is some data that shares a hug is actually better than a handshake. But we did put that out there for our people, and some people wore masks, some people didn't. It'll be interesting to see this year what people do and how they're engaging and how safe people feel. Um, but we had that event and we did what we could do, and it seemed like people felt pretty safe there. So what else have you seen, Bobby, Indra, Melanie, people doing at in-person events to try to help people feel safer?
Well, I think a big part of it is just communicating exactly what the protocols and parameters are with the event itself, and helping people feel safe. And I think safety certainly is one thing. We want to make sure people feel safe and that they can enjoy the event, whether it's in person or whether it's live in person or whether it's actually online. Because I think people always worry about security from one standpoint or another. That's the basics of relationship building. The making people feel safe. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Make sure people feel safe, but then we have to start building towards something that creates more meaning, creates more impact for them as they move forward. So that's just to me, that's just the basics. Um, but I wanted to actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to actually take this a little bit I guess, a little bit more a direction, if I may, which is, we're talking about relationships to boost your career. I guess the thing I want to ask and get this going, and if anyone wants to come on stage and ask a question, this is the perfect time to do it. Come up on stage, ask a question about how you build a relationship, how you use your relationship building to boost your career. But I would say that the first question I want to ask, and this is for everybody in the panel, is when you go to an event, or whether it's an in-person event or even an online event, how do you set yourself apart? Because one of the things that I can tell you is that um, I like to teach people, no matter whether they're introvert or whether they're, an extrovert, it doesn't matter who they are. What can you do to set yourself apart and be memorable? I mean, even in a space like this, it's memorable when people come on stage and contribute versus the ones who don't say anything, right? So, what can people do to make themselves more memorable at these events? Because that memorability, I think, will actually end up boosting their career prospects. Marie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I would take this a little bit different, different place than people might think. And this is why we talk about relationships, because focusing on the relationships that you build will make you stand out. I don't know if you've ever been to an event and you can tell that person who is quote unquote working the room, right? They've got their spiel down, they're meeting people, but it all feels so glossy and slimy. I mean, you almost feel like you need a shower after you talk to that person, right? And so sometimes a lot of coaches, well-meaning, will talk about, have your elevator pitch and have those things down. And yes, those are important. But when you walk through that door, I really want you genuinely there to build relationships. And that might mean that you're not necessarily focused on work in the room or meeting everyone, but it might mean that you're trying to find a few people, a handful of people that you really connect with, that you want to talk to, that you can build a relationship with, and that you can continue that relationship with. This makes an introvert feel safer because it isn't about trying to meet everyone or work the room. It's really about going in with the idea of, one, I want to be there genuinely. I want to be there present. And there's also some research around charisma. We think about charisma kind of being this, thing that only person who is extroverted can attain. But the research around charisma says that actually charisma is about making that other person that you're talking to feel like you're actually present with them. And so an introvert can do that really well because you just focus on that one person that you're talking to, asking great questions, listening to them. I mean, Dale Carnegie, age old thing, right? To be interesting, be interested. And you are there to meet people and to build those relationships. Yes, you need to have your soundbite down. You need to know what you want to say about yourself and have that be clear. But when you get there, take the focus off of yourself and put the focus on building relationships with others, and you will stand out long term because you're not just going to be a flash in the pan. You're actually going to build that relationship with other people in the room. So that's the advice that I would give to people when they're going to an event.
Melanie, what do you think?
What do you
Melanie, what
think?
do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and of course, I am an introvert. I am like full-fledged introvert, 100%. And so oftentimes live in-person events are for the introverts that may be in the room, it is physically and mentally exhaustive. Like it takes everything to prepare for it, and then once you're done, you're just like, okay, I'm done. And I loved how, Marie focused on really developing some deeper conversations, because I think sometimes that these things are all very superficial. They're not, it's you don't really get to know the person. It's like, here's my spiel, okay. So if you can really kind of dive in and just even take that little extra time to get to know that person, and I think it's not so much even in that moment of being like, kind of making that imprint, but it's really almost that after effect. It's that after the event where you can literally follow up with that person and just say, I want to tell you how much, I enjoyed speaking with you and getting to know about X, Y, and Z. We used to have a sales technique that we would do with new recruiters that would say, okay, when you get on the phone, your goal is to find, or, what they were going to do with either clients or candidates. Your goal is to find one thing new about this particular person or an interesting fact. Like you're supposed to, you accumulate information and you use that information later on. But if you can do that in a conversation where you learn something interesting about that other person, that shows, and that really shows that you listened. That really shows that, oh wow, this person really they heard me. They heard what I was saying. And I think that impact makes it 10 times more. I think that's when you make the imprint on somebody, is when you can really give back to them what they said to you, and that it shows that you cared.
I love that. Indra, what do you think?
So I always think, well, whenever you have the opportunity to attend a in-person event, I always like to make the most of it, and I mean the most of it. So, the various speakers that are going to be speaking, I always try to do some research on them. I also, if I'm privy to knowing who's attending, and sometimes you can find out because people are on social media, they'll share it on social media. You can do a little bit of research about people, about in my case, some of the current projects that they've been involved in, and whether it's a movie, a documentary, a short film, whatever the project is. And so I like to do some research so that when I meet them, um, I can have a conversation and ask them a question about something that they're currently working on. And by doing that bit of preparation, then I also feel it also generates some organic questions for me, as in, I will have an interest in whatever the topic is that I'm attending, and then I'll be able to ask further in depth questions that I've been thinking about that maybe weren't covered, in the topic, or that's something I want to know a little bit more about. So that's another kind of conversation piece. So I like to plan ahead. And it also makes the event more exciting for me if I've also invested myself a little bit more in the research and in the content.
Yeah, that is so important, Indra, and especially for getting the most out of the event. And as Melanie and I was talking about, the introverts in the room, it and virtual events too. Then you have some relationships before you go. And most events today have a Facebook group, or like our group, we're just about to kick off our Mighty Network space for our upcoming in-person event so that people can get to know each other and reconnect and all of those things before they go. And then, as you said, you've got better questions to ask, but you can also like start the conversation before you even get there. And a lot of professional development events will have that option. Obviously, if we're going to, kind of a general networking event, we might not have that. But I really think the preparation and relationship building before you go can be so powerful for the reasons that you mentioned, and to ease anxiety for people who may be anxious. And Bobby, I know you said this, that when you went to your first in-person event, even though you are very extroverted, getting back in the groove after not doing it for a while was a challenge, even for someone like you, right?
Yeah, the 100% flaming extrovert in me during the pandemic became less so, and it was a little bit something I had to get used to. And I had to be mindful of my energy level because it wasn't as strong as it used to be. It's like a muscle almost. And so for me, it was kind of funny to kind of get into it again. But I think now I'm back, baby. So I'm okay now for the most part in doing so. And I do love in-person events. And we're doing a LinkedIn local Toronto meetup. We started doing them in this past year, and now we're doing another one at end of March. So I do love those. But I'm also seeing now the integration of virtual events are everywhere. I mean, we're doing these Twitter Spaces, we're doing Clubhouse rooms, LinkedIn audio rooms, we're doing live streams, certainly webinars and whatnot. These online events are also a big part of helping people build their career and network and build relationships. Uh, so thanks everyone for being here. This is all about the power of relationship to boost your career. So if you want to come on stage and ask a question or share a comment or share an insight, I see Dan's there. If you want to come up, Dan, and share some of your amazing insights on career growth and career building, that would be great. But also we'd like you to tweet this out there. So one of the things we can do to get people to more people in this room and get the benefits of our hosts and our expert speaker is you tweet this out there. So just click the button on top there, the arrow button, as well as and just say, hey, join this room, learning about career growth. Tag me, tag Indra, tag Melanie, tag Marie, and that way, when I see it, I'll automatically retweet to my 500,000 followers, which means that you'll probably get more followers and also we'll get more people in the room. So if you want to help out with that, we'd appreciate that. Or you can DM people and join the room. Um, with that, I see, Dan has come up. So very nice, Dan. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. You may hear some traffic in the background. I'm on my way to bring my daughter to her class, but I figured I owed it to you to come up after making the wisecrack about turning 65 earlier. So
Yeah, no one knows
it's
about
good.
that reference because I was earlier today on a live stream. He was calling me 65. I'm only 32. No, I'm actually 52 years old, but I appreciate it. But yeah, yeah. But
Well, I was just asking you if you get discounts, but that's okay. Um, it's great to talk to you again. I've recently reconnected with a few people, specifically on this stage. I don't know what I'm allowed to share or what I'm not allowed. Person that I'm referring to, that's up to you. Uh, but I'll be doing my first in-person speaking event of the year coming up on March 29th, and thankfully it's right in my adopted hometown of San Diego, and I got the opportunity through networking with an incredibly brilliant, beautiful, smart, magnificent, wonderful woman who I am buttering up as we speak.
uh,
Dan. Yeah, so Dan is going to be one of the speakers at our Career Thought Leaders Symposium coming up in San Diego. As I said, we gather the career services providers from around the US and around the globe. And what a better person than Dan to come in and chat about what's going on in the hiring space, specifically to diversity and inclusion. And so I'm excited to meet Dan in person, right? We love to get those opportunities to meet in person. And Dan's right there in San Diego where we're having the event. So thanks so much, Dan. I'm excited to meet you.
Likewise, and I have to be honest, 3 years we've been doing this, or I've been on these apps and working the social, and next month is the first time I'm going to meet anyone uh, from anywhere of the places that we've spoken at. Actually, my friend, who some of you know, Michelle Olivier, is coming in earlier in the month. And then there's the marketing event that you're going to be here for earlier that month. And then at the end of March, we have it.
And you know what, Dan, I mean, since you're on stage, I mean, obviously, you know, you've done a lot of work actually in helping people with their career as well with your LinkedIn group. So, I mean, I would love to maybe ask you to share your own insight into the power of relationships to boost your career. Like, you know, what do you see as the, you know, why is building relationships so important? Any sort of insights or tips you can give our group, that would be actually really great.
So it's an interesting time for me to answer that question because with all the tech, most people know that of
Sorry,
the
Dan. Sorry, Dan,
numbers
you're cutting out a
game.
little bit. Okay, go ahead.
Is this
Go ahead.
better?
You were just cutting out for a bit, but now you're better. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, sorry about that. That's what happens when you're driving, but I'm almost at my destination. So it's a weird point for me to be talking about this because most people do know that I was let go from Amazon as a result of the layoffs, and it wasn't because of the work I had been doing, um, but just the sheer numbers game with over a quarter million people being let go. But I'll tell you this: all the networking that I've done has really been to create and build an infrastructure so that when you do get knocked off your pedestal, you don't fall as far. You know, I saw a lot of people that were posting, "Oh yeah, I was let out of work," and then not to speak to egotistically, but the difference between when I did and when other people did is I was seeing other people get 3,000-4,000 reactions, and then you saw mine, and there were less reactions, but there was a gross amount of more comments. And those comments, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around, were this basic metamorphosis of how the relationships that I've built have touched people's lives. And in doing so, it's led me to have a lot more opportunities right off the bat than I would have without those relationships. You know, fundamentally, I think everything leads back to how we treat other people. And a lot of times we don't notice when other people are noticing. So from the moment that you wake up in the morning to the moment that you go to bed, it's all about, for me, just trying to show the people that I respect them, and doing the little things in spite of what may be going on. And when you do this in a very organic and natural way, it has a way of coming back to you. And while I'm the first person to admit I'm down in the dumps and a bit depressed, I also am very well aware that I have a lot of great things on the horizon, and the people that I've built community with are right there, and I would have it no other way. So I don't know if that fully answers your question. You know, I'm a little bit long-winded. My apologies, but uh, that's what I've got. And by the way, uh, one of the other people I've connected with more recently is Heather, and God knows I've loved her since the day we met, not in a very platonic way. And she's one of the most amazing people that I was introduced to directly because of you, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. And you know what's interesting is that you talked about you know, relationship building and how uh, like what's really amazing to me is that you met with you're meeting these people for the first time. Like I have all these people that are in my network now through all the online stuff from Twitter Space and Clubhouse, and I haven't met anybody in person. I've only met the only person I've actually met in person are Ilya Francis and Lynn Williams, and other than that, I've met no because one came to Canada, the other one lives nearby in Toronto. So you know, it's fascinating to have all these people and friends that I don't even know from or I haven't met in person, but you know, feel really close to. I think that's really important. I also want to add one thing about this whole thing, which is, you know, having been in the job situation where I was out of a job and whatnot. I'll tell one quick story, which is when I lost my last corporate job, which was in brand marketing for Unilever. As soon as I was walked out of the office, you know, with my coat and my bag, I went downstairs. I bought a bunch of thank you cards from the gift store, and I went to the coffee shop and I just wrote about 15 to 20 thank you cards. And then I called one of my friends upstairs and I said, can you come down and just deliver these to people's cubicles, or at least their mailboxes? And she said, sure. She came down, delivered those cards. They were just thank you cards for people. And that's something that was impactful because people reached out to me saying, thank you so much. That really means a lot. You really made an impact just with those cards, because most people, when they get let go from a job, I mean, they go home and wallow for many days. And I've been in that boat before. The first time I lost a job, but this time I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to send a message to people because I think that's the way to go. And also, building relationships is incredibly powerful for you because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So if you should be constantly building relationships and nurturing your relationships and nurturing community, because at some point you may want to leverage the bank. You may want to actually tell people, hey, listen, this was going on with me, and that relationship you nurtured 5, 10 years ago can now come in handy later on. So I think that's another thing that's really important for us to consider when it comes to relation building. Planting the seed 5, 10 years earlier to then benefit you in the present or in the future.
Yeah, Bobby, and that's why the long-term view of, networking is so important because, Melanie and I work with job seekers, and that's the hardest time to try to network because you feel like you need something, you need someone to help you today. And those people that don't nurture their relationships consistently really struggle because they have that, that barrier of I haven't talked to this person for 4 years or whatever, and now I'm going to reach out to them and ask them for help, versus those people who do this a little bit more organically. Although I love organic, it's also got to have some structure to it for most people, or it won't happen, right? We're busy people and we don't necessarily think about it, especially those of us that see ourselves having a smaller circle. I look at LinkedIn and the number of followers, whatever it was, even when it was 1,000, it made me like a little bit panicky because that's just not who I am. I'm a tight circle type of gal. I'm not a person that ever saw myself having a huge following or a good sized Facebook group. And you start to figure out that you've got to have a system to manage those relationships, to nurture them, to feel like you actually know the person. And for me, that's really important. To Dan's point, I don't want to be the person that has a large following but doesn't know anybody. I want to be the person that actually has a community and has relationships. And that as you do that throughout your career, then it's not only the success, but it's also the depth and the mental support, as Dan was saying, that you feel like you have, and how helpful that is for all of us. And that's the part that's easy to reciprocate, right? No matter what your situation is, if you show up and actually care about other people, you're reciprocating even when you feel like you may not have anything to give. You can always give your presence. You can always give that real, authentic caring for the other person. Indra, Melanie, what do you want to add here?
I totally agree. They were wonderful points, Marie. And on that note, because we are talking, I just want to give a quick summary to what we're talking about, because I've just invited a friend who's just joined us, Success Minded. Thank you so much for joining us in the space. And for anybody else that's new who's also popped in recently, we've been talking about uh, the power of relationships. Also, there's been this transition period between the COVID time, and now more people are meeting in person. So, Marie, Melanie, and Bobby, and myself have all been talking about the ways that we can get used to this new transition, and also sometimes transition back. But also, there are global relationships and there are long distance relationships. Particularly Success Minded is based in India. So, love to hear your thoughts if you're able to speak on any of these topics, and anybody else. And if you're not, there's also the chat. So put a note in the chat or ask a question. But I really feel that it's very important that we are active with our voice in no matter where we are, like whether it's we're globally, we're at a distance, there are no disadvantages with social media. So I think social media has been a really big help, and particularly being being in the society that we're in now, we're not limited to being in person, although being in person is my favorite. But I would also like to throw back to the panel. Um, how do we navigate um, moving forward and increasing our our relationships? Whether it be, well, I think it's still a lot of it is via networking online. Um, and so, what are some of the values and some of the things that we can do to continue on this path, whether it be online predominantly or in person?
I think one of the areas that we don't realize how much power it has sometimes is just commenting on other people's social media posts. And you think, oh, that's so silly, but it's really powerful. All of us are content creators, I'm guessing. So you know how powerful it is when someone comments on your post. You're like, thank you, right? And it also starts that conversation. When we comment on posts, I have like a three-step comment. So when you're commenting on a post, the first thing that you do is connect, whether that's, compliment the person or point out something specific that you like about what they said. Now, this is important because even if you don't agree with what someone's saying, you can always find something. Thank you for bringing up that topic. So even if you don't agree, you find some way to connect. And then you share your thoughts. Again, if it's something you don't agree with, you don't have to pick the person apart. You just share your thoughts. They may be conflicting with what the other person said, but you don't necessarily need to point that out or be, confrontational about it. And then you share another connection point. So that could be a question. It could be a drawing someone else into the conversation. So I might tag someone else in. But those are my three-step comment. And, for some people that comes organically. For me, I have to think about the process because it's online, it's not in person, it's very visible, it feels vulnerable. And so I think about that three-step comment. And I, of course, think about it on LinkedIn, but even on Facebook, again, for me, the introvert, it's really easy to just hit the like button, and that doesn't do anything for my relationship. So even on Facebook, thinking about, okay, what would I say if that person told me that in person? So one of my friends posts about her son did X, Y, and Z. When I'm in person, I wouldn't just like bump her shoulder, right? That's what I kind of think of a like, as if I just went up to you and like hit you on the shoulder, right? No, I'd say something to her. And so what would I say to her in person? Oh, that's so awesome. Like, what went into that? Or what did he have to do to make that happen? Or, what would I say to her? What question might I ask her in person so that I can maintain that relationship? And it's using these tools to maintain the relationship. What do you think, Melanie or
Yeah.
Bobby?
Well, I loved what you said about, the engagement piece, because that's a huge thing for me. And, I would take it first off, I would take it a step back and tell everybody networking, building relationships is is a long-term career trajectory. It can help you with some short-term career um, and professional development pieces. It can help you with some short-term goals, but it's also to help you for your long-term goals. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think oftentimes we get short-sighted in the immediacy of like, I need, I need a job right now, or I need to find a new referral, for a doctor, or whatever that may be. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is, no matter what place you're in. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're a career job seeker, you're just looking to move up. This should be a part of your daily life. And maybe you think about like social media and you're like, nah, I don't have time to like jump on social media and comment on, a ton of stuff. Okay, then set aside some time, like today I'm going to do that. But how are you also building relationships with those that you do see in person or talk to on a regular day? Are you taking the time to have like really in-depth conversations with him? I think in today's world where there's so much going on, if you've got kids, you've got, just everything. For me, I literally just moved like over a week ago and it feels like it's been a month. And so I have to keep reminding myself, like, it's okay, it's only been a week. But you need to make sure you're checking in with people. So just even if you have to set aside the time and you put it into your calendar, it may not seem like, oh, that's not real, that's not organic, and that's okay. But just make sure you're doing it. You're doing it in some way, whether it's in person, online, social media. How are you asking yourself at the end of the week, how many people did I connect with? How many conversations did I have? Start tracking it. Because once you start realizing who you're talking to and you're keeping track of that information, then you're going to start seeing what results come from it. And it's also, honestly, it's also going to make you feel better about yourself. I mean, truthfully, when you're connecting with people, no matter what form, it it helps our mental state as well. So that's my 10 cents.
I love that. Yeah, that it does make you, and even, I mean, it's silly, but you might dread it. Most of us spend way too much time scrolling social media, and that is bad for our health. I mean, there's been so many research done about how bad that is for our health. But when you go to social media with the intent to connect, so I've got a list of people that I go to their profiles and I comment on their stuff. And I spend very little time scrolling. Even LinkedIn is bad for your mental health when you're scrolling it because most of us, what we're doing is we're comparing. What is that person doing versus what I'm doing? What are they achieving versus what I'm achieving? And it's really not good for us. So when you go to social media for the intent of connecting, you'll actually find that you can flip that a little bit. You still want to be careful about how much time you spend there, but you can flip that draining a little bit when you go with a focus of engaging and building relationships versus just scrolling and reading. And so I love that, Melanie, that whether we're in person or we're on social media, our intent is to build those relationships. But Bobby, I see that we have a new speaker that's joined us too.
Yeah, that's great. Well, actually, yeah, so we have more speakers here and a lot of people coming up on stage. Again, if you want to come on stage and ask a question of Marie or the panel, we'd love to have you come on stage to talk about relationship building and how to boost your career. If you're struggling with your career and you need to have some help or support, that's exactly what this room is for. So we'd love to have you come up on stage, put your hand up. So it looks like our speaker just left. So I was just about to transition to them, but I guess they left. Sadly, that's okay. Well, I mean, it happens. Some people, are speaking and sometimes they leave, and that's okay. But, I think this is a really great conversation. You guys are sharing some really amazing insights into the whole aspect of relationship building. So, where we got, and again, if you're liking what you're hearing, be sure to share the knowledge, right? Share with your network, let people know about what we're doing. We do the Power Connection weekly every at 11 a.m. Eastern on Mondays. And Indra and Melanie are often my co-hosts, and they've been really supportive with that. And now, of course, we're bringing in some amazing, fabulous speakers and experts like Marie to help people with it. And Marie, you're a natural. You're actually you're doing such a good job, even like helping co-host the event. So that's fantastic. If you have Marie, if you have like a tweet that you want me to put up in the nest above there for people to see, then that's something we can also do. I want to make sure that we get that out there as well. And I think that a lot of people here are talk about Twitter and LinkedIn. I mean, the other thing to think about too is how are you using Twitter and LinkedIn or even these social audio spaces to, boost your career. I think one of the best things you could do is just show up and get on stage. You go to a room, you see what they're talking about. It's relevant to who you are, whether your target industry or the people you want to network with. And you put your hand up and say, "Hey, I want to speak." And just doing that and speaking for 5, 10, 30 seconds about who you are and what you're doing, adding your own 2 cents of value. That's a way to set yourself apart, to be memorable, to be heard. And I think more and more people, if they did that, it would really create that impact. What do you guys think?
I'll just jump in really quickly and just say I think too, networking, especially if you're an introvert in particular, but it sometimes it can stress you out, the thought of it. So if you are scared to, if you're like, wow, I know I need to be doing this more, I need to be better at it, it's really breaking out of your comfort zone, and it's really saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to ask a question, and it may not come out right, or it may, I may stumble over my words, and that's okay. That's okay. Because guess what? If you start building, I think, Bobby, you mentioned this earlier, it's like a muscle. If you just continue to strengthen it, you get better at it. And so the more you do something, the better hopefully the better you get at it. So I think you just really have to, truly, it's about breaking out of your comfort zone and just saying, okay, today's the day I'm going to ask that question. And honestly, I will say this. So you want to talk about a power of connection. I'm an introvert. I growing up was the shyest child under the face of on the face of this earth growing up, and so that shy girl still exists. Pandemic's all happening. I'm on Clubhouse. I stumble across this room, and that was Club, and then there's LinkedIn Mastery, and here I am. I'm just trying to learn LinkedIn. I got so I can better educate my clients. I can better educate myself. And I'd be so nervous to ask a question. I really would. I would just be super nervous to ask a question, but I did. I raised my hand. I asked a question. I did it once, did it again, started coming back. Next thing I know, I have an opportunity like, hey, if anybody out there is interested in starting their own room, please message. And I was like, well, I am. I have this idea. It's called LinkedIn 101. It's for people like me. And so I did. I reached out. I did that. So I started my own room. But guess what was happening all this time? I'm getting to know, I say this as I'm pointing like my hands to you, Bobby. I'm getting to know the man on my right or left, depending on how you're looking at it. And I'm starting to build a relationship with him. And I'm starting to get to know him and his family and all, and we're building a connection. Long story short, here we are, almost 2 years. I'm now on the leadership team of Thought Leadership Branding Club. I talk to Bobby pretty much almost every single day. And, he's somebody I go to if I, have a personal issue, but he knows what's happening in my life, vice versa. We've built this relationship. He's also exposed me to opportunities for presentations, speaking, helping me better my skills. So all of that happened by raising my hand on a social audio. So there's that little story for you.
Wow, that's a great testimonial. Preach, right? You're preaching and showing how you made an impact. And yeah, I mean, you have an impact on my life too. So yeah, I refer you clients because I think of you, right? Building a relationship allows you to be top of mind with people, whether they are your colleagues, whether they're people that you work with, whether they're people that you work for. And so I think that putting that effort into building that relationship and nurturing those relationships, wherever they are, online or in person, goes a heck of a long way to creating those opportunities for yourself. So, Melanie, that's a fantastic testimony of what you've done. We have a new speaker on stage. Simran, go ahead with your question or comment today. Are you able to speak? Go ahead. Simran?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi, go ahead.
Can you please tell me what's the topic and what's the discussion going on?
The topic is about relationships and how to use them to boost your career. So tell us a bit more about, if you have an insight or a thought or a question for us.
From my personal experience, what I can share is I've not had, good relationships, but yes, I have learned my lessons, and I don't think that the kind of relationship that I have been in, helped me, in boosting, my career or helped me in career in any way. But yes, I have been in certain relationships where I have learned my value, how to how to love myself more, and how to, I've just grown as a person, and I've learned it the hard way. So I would say that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think that there are relationships, and when we talk about relationships, we're talking about relationships with people that are mentors or people that could be those who might hire you to for a job or from a networking perspective. And so there's and even relationships that don't go well. Like let's say I have a mentorship relationship that goes sour, or if I have a professional relationship that doesn't go well. There's things I can learn from that. What can I learn from that to be better as a person? I did a post today actually on LinkedIn where I just talked about my because of my birthday last week. So I said, what are 5 lessons I want to share with the world? And one is constantly learning and changing, evolving, growing as a person to better ourselves. And so, even with relationships, the things that we struggle with relationships are incredible teachers for us as we move forward. So that's just something I'll kind of put out there. Again, with lots of people in the room now, which is great. Thanks so much for being here. If you want to come on stage and ask a question or you have a comment, feel free to do that. I want to make sure that Marie is able to cover all the different things she wants to get into. So, Marie, was there any other aspect you want to cover when it comes to relationship building for a career boost?
So we've talked a little bit about using social media. We've talked about in person. I want to talk a little bit about online events. Now, this could be a meeting at your current company. It could be a professional development event that you attend live. Um, but let's say it's on Zoom, or there's so many other technologies people are using. When you are meeting someone on Zoom, show up. Be on video when you can. Now, I like offering people a choice when I'm meeting with them. Do they want phone or do they want Zoom? I think that's important because not every meeting needs to be on Zoom. But when you are specifically using a virtual event to try to boost your career, show up. This seems obvious, right? But I think we're all kind of checking the box and we've got a little bit lackadaisical that I'm going to this event, I'm networking, but I'm going to sit there with my camera off and multitask the whole time. That is not networking. So if you are going to go to a professional development event that's virtual, put the time on your calendar. Show up. Be on visual when there's a time for you to be on visual. And then also show up in the chat. Connect with people, ask questions, answer questions, give people feedback on the things that they talk about. And similar to what Indra was talking about before, with a virtual event, you can research ahead of time who's going to be there. You can connect with people on social media while the event is going on. You want to you want to be present and you want to use that event to boost your career. You don't just want to check the box and say, yeah, I attended this professional development event this month. Show up, be on video, be in the chat, use it to build relationships, use it to build visibility, similar to what Melanie was just talking about. And if you're in meetings in your company, same thing. Be on video when it's appropriate, be in the chat when it's appropriate. If you're running meetings and with your team, I'd say that we want, 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting to actually build those relationships. I don't remember if it was Indra or Melanie that said, we've got to be careful that we're just not going through our lives halfway showing up. We actually want to be there, ask people relational questions and build relationships with them, because then when there's an opportunity for a promotion or whatever it might be, you will be the one that is known. And, we used to say that it's who you know, but today we say it's who knows you. And the only way that you can have that is to build authentic relationships with people, to ask questions that are relational, how are your kids or whatever that might be, appropriate but relational, and to give yourself that opportunity virtually. And this is where, people that are new coming in the workforce or whatever it might be, really struggle to build those relationships because they've maybe been on technology, but haven't really thought about how they're going to use that technology for this use case to really show up in their professional life and to make sure that they're using that technology for that way. So any other tips you all would add for virtual events or meetings? How do you build relationships and build your brand on those?
The first thing I'll say is that find every and any opportunity you can to speak at any virtual event because it's really easy. You can plan exactly what you want to say. You can even write down your statement if you want, and you can just read it. But just make sure you speak because the number of people that are speaking these online events is very, very low. And the second thing is using the chat box to engage people and start chatting with them, I think is really, really powerful. Melanie and Andrew, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'll let Indra speak here too. But I just think that and even like when we think about posting content. Like if we use LinkedIn as an example, I think there's some the new statistics like 850 million plus, maybe like 900 million plus people or something like that are on the platform, but like 3 to 5% actually are only putting out information. So when you think like, I always tell people, I know in the big scheme of life, it seems like we have such a small place or a small voice in this vast world of, quote unquote social media. Like, I mean, how many, like, oh no, never, nobody's going to see me. Nobody's going to hear, look at it, read it, whatever, hear me. If you think about Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, all the other social audio platforms. But in the reality, it's such a small percentage of the actual people that are doing anything that your voice can be heard. It can be seen. And the most important thing, you don't need to go quote unquote viral. You just need to, one person just needs to connect with you. What if you were able to, if you spoke today and connected with somebody that gave you a career opportunity or gave you an opportunity to have a conversation about a job or, or something related to your career as a speaker or to your business, or you got a client, like would that, how, and you did that every so often, how much would that, add up? The impact of that is huge. And the amount of investment and time is not that massive. So the return on it is amazing. So I just really encourage people, like everyone has a voice. Everyone does, your voice needs to be heard. Everyone has a unique perspective. And so don't be afraid to put it out there.
Yeah, I think everything that you just mentioned, Melanie, that was gold. And also, I think we underestimate ourselves, particularly for people who are introverted and think, oh, I don't want to say this, or maybe it's already been said. I think we all have our own unique way of expressing ourselves. And even if we're fumbling through things, I think that's even better than not speaking at all. Something that I really encourage in the Positivity Vibe Tribe spaces is particularly first time speakers that look, come on up and just say hello, and just say, okay, this is my name and this is what my account's about, and it's great to be here. I'm enjoying listening. And you could do that in this space too, because Bobby loves for new speakers to come up. So does Melanie and myself. So we really encourage it. First time speakers, we will hold your hand through this. And that's what I say in the Positivity Vibe Tribe, and I say it here too. We are happy for you, even with language barriers. Don't worry, just kind of come up, say hello, and get used to speaking in a space. And the first couple times it is weird. And what I encourage you to do is to feel better about it. Is to actually hit the replay later and listen to how you sound, and then you can not be harsh on yourself, but self-critique a little bit and just sort of say, oh, next time I could have said XYZ about my account, or this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'd like to know about. So I think if you kind of treat it like, okay, well, it's just going to be fun, these people are friendly, and come on up and just put your hand up and feel like this is one of those spaces I could just come in and practice. So practice is something that I implore everybody to do, and to take the opportunity when Bobby, Melanie, and myself are saying, hey, come on up. We would love to hear from you. And no question is silly or stupid or anything. It's a question, and we value you.
And I often say practice makes permanent. The more you practice, the more permanent build the skills, habits, attitudes, beliefs, and practice will start to build that for you on the journey to trying to be more perfect. So we have Clara on stage here. Welcome to the stage, Clara. Please go ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you so much. Well, after all of your encouragement to speak up, I am going to take you up on that. I started using Twitter quite recently. I'm starting a new career, entering web development. And just for the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've been connecting in spaces just like this. And it really has been a great experience connecting with people. And like you said, building relationships, and just getting feedback, and being able to just have that human connection. I'm doing a self-paced, self-taught route. So it has been nice to have this outlet to connect with people that are kind of on the same route or ahead of me, and everybody's been so willing to help and really just make everyone feel welcome. One thing about the topic that you are talking about that I'm having a bit of a hard time wrapping my mind around, and maybe being okay
Sorry, Claire, cutting out a little bit there. So
with
can you just repeat the last
is
10, 15
doesn't come
seconds
from
and go
a
again?
background of education as a teacher. I agree, and I sure. I hope this is better. Yes, and I communicating and connecting with people to build relationships, and for me that has always been very important. But now that I'm entering, I think, a more business kind of environment, I'm seeing, especially here on Twitter, how building relationships is really more about you, about the person, So I'm having a hard time seeing people describe themselves as a product, your image or your, I forgot the keyword that you just used, but your brand. How maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Because that's not something that we needed to do really in education. You go and you do your job, and then you connect, because we need connection. We need that human connection. So that's where I'm coming from. But now I'm seeing it as, oh, I have to do it more as if I'm the product. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I can just say that, I think a lot of people who are, let's say, turned off by personal branding, they always say, I'm not a bar of soap. I'm not a product. And I'm saying, well, I think it's just how we reframe it. I think that at the end of the day, reputation matters and the experience you provide for people matters. So what I would say to people is, if you want to build a meaningful, thoughtful, memorable, and positive reputation for yourself, if you want to be someone that is memorable, someone that's likable, someone that people want to collaborate with, work with, people that are top of mind, then that's something that you should work towards building. And I think that to me is the important piece of it. The best products per se are like that out there. They're things that are memorable, things that give you a positive experience. And so I often talk branding and personal branding as you think about, the value or benefits you get from a product, but a lot of it is experience based, a lot of it is memory based, a lot of it is emotional based. And so that's the type of personal brand you want to create with people when it comes to networking, showing up at events, coming up on stage, and being the type of person that people say, yeah, that was really interesting. I find that person to be quite genuine, authentic, and I might want to do more collaboration with them or keep them top of mind. What does the rest of the panel think? Marie, what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen a lot recently where personal brand has been equated with online brand building or visibility or even influencer. I've seen personal branding kind of equated with being an influencer, and that they're not the same thing. So some people may use their personal brand and want to build it online, but a personal brand at its core is, who are you? What do you do? What do you want to do? And that's where you can think of it as similar to a product, where who are you and what do you do? But also, who do you want to be known by? So what do you want to be known for? Who needs to know you? That's your audience. And then how are you going to build that connection? And when we do that, the essence of our personal brand is our unique promise of value. So what is authentic to us? What do we do over and over again? And then who are we connecting to that we're going to add that value to? And it's not about, revenue or doing what people want you to do. It's about finding those connection points between who you are and the kind of organic value that you bring to everything that you do. And then how does that add value to the specific audience that you're connecting with right now? And you can use any way that you want to build that connection. You can do it in person. You can do it through one-on-one conversations. You can do it through social media posting. I talk a lot with business owners and business owners who are trying to build their business in the career space. And I think that there's this pressure to build online, to post on LinkedIn, or to do, they're not usually on Twitter as much. They tend to be on LinkedIn. And so I'll tell them that that is just one way that you can build your brand, that you can build your visibility for business or for career. But you could also do it in a way that works better for you. If you're a great networker, what other platforms might you want to use for networking? And I'm not talking online platforms. I'm talking about, going to professional development events or reaching out strategically to recruiters or whoever it is that you want to build relationships to. And as long as you're doing it strategically, consistently, and have a structure to maintain that consistency, you're going to achieve the same results that people would posting on LinkedIn. I got to tell you, just because you post on LinkedIn doesn't mean that you're going to build your business. There's a lot of people with tons of followers that have no business because they don't have a strategy, they don't have consistency, and they're not really thinking about what's their unique promise of value and how are they connecting that value to what their customers care about. So you got to start first with, why are you trying to build a brand? What are you trying to get out of it for yourself and for other people? The value that you want to add for other people too. And then you can choose what's the right communication, what are the right stories to tell, and where, whether online, offline, or both, where is the best place to make those connections and share that message that can build the relationships that I want to build. What else would you add, Melanie or Indra?
Something also that I wanted to add is I also think being on social media has its advantages. And I think it's really, Bobby did a whole session on this, but to just to figure out which platforms or which platform is your platform, and you don't really have to spread yourself too thinly, but it's about showing up on a regular basis so that people start to recognize you, so they understand what you're about by the content that you choose, and being specific about what is the content. I mean, it's okay to explore and try different things, but there should be sort of like a running theme so that the people that connect with you know, oh, okay, so if I go over to Bobby's account, oh, okay, I'm going to get a lot about how important it is. The power of connection has a big, has a big umbrella. It's going to be working with people. It's going to be building relationships. It's going to be online. It's going to be so many different things. It's going to be, under that umbrella, right? So I think that's important that, we also figure out what is it we want to share. And hey, I also want to give a shout out to my friend and community manager of the Positivity Vibe Tribe, Santhal, just joined us from India. Thanks for dropping in, and thank you also. I see some members of the Positivity Vibe Tribe in the room joining this tribe. So wonderful to see you all. So over to you, Melanie.
Sorry about that. I was having a little difficulty there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I'm just going to go back. It really, when it comes to that particular question, Claire, I think it is hard for people. Like, first and foremost, yes, we are humans. I mean, we're not, which separates us from quote unquote a product. We have emotions, we have feelings and everything like that. And so I do see that it's very easy to fall into that, trap of what you see kind of on the surface. But I think when you start to really dig deeper, and I said this very early on in one of the first things that we talked about, I try to have I just try to have like an actual phone call with my potential clients when I'm first starting off. And one, they're so like, oh my gosh, this isn't Zoom and I don't have to click all these things. I'm making it easier for them, but we're having a conversation. We're getting a chance to kind of know each other. And so I think it's just really on kind of us is to make sure that we always empower, that we always embody that personal nature. I mean, yes, I am a career coach. I, go on different platforms as a way to build my brand and, as Bobby mentioned, my reputation. And there is always going to be a piece of that. Anytime that I'm speaking, because I have to. That's one way I add value back to my business, so to speak, which is like for me, my third child, or I guess it's my fourth child after the cat. But and so so I do have to, I value that. But at the end of the day, I also hope that people can see that I'm authentic, or feel that I'm authentic, and that they will want to kind of get to know me. And, and also I try to showcase my personality. I don't take myself too seriously, to be very honest. And, and I try to just, kind of appreciate the moment, and really just listening. That's also a big thing too. So I think you have to just, yes, we are our brand, and it's important to understand what your brand is, but it's also important, balancing that with really getting to know who that person is behind the scenes of social media.
Well, Melanie, that's just such a great point, because we are human, we aren't a product, and even products today are showing you more of a story or the behind the scenes or whatever, because we are all human and we all want those connections. And so oftentimes I'll talk with, job seekers or even coaches about that if you have too much of this professional front, it's hard for people to connect with you, and it's really hard for you to differentiate yourself, because that connection and also the differentiation oftentimes comes with the more human stories. Why do you do what you do? What do you love about what you do? Is there a story behind what your expertise is? So why you chose a specific area of expertise, or your specific person that you help, your specific audience? Because when you bring those stories in, it brings that life and differentiation and connection in. And it doesn't mean you have to, tell everybody your whole life story. Actually, that can cause more problems, because then you might be telling that story and people don't understand why it connects, right? So to tell the stories that really relate to your audience, that show how you relate, that show why you're focused on what you do, it brings in that human piece of it, and makes it more fun. It makes it more interesting, makes it more connective, and it makes you more than one dimensional, which, not just on social media, but in everything that we do, people want to connect with others beyond that one dimension.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. And, I think that we've had a really amazing discussion today, but I think we're going to be getting to the end of this, as I have to go soon and head off for lunch, but I do appreciate everyone being here. In the meantime, why don't we hear from, Marie? You deliver some really great stuff. Make sure everyone follows her on Twitter as well as other places. But why don't you tell us a bit more about where people can follow you or connect with you?
Sure. Thanks, Bobby. And thank you again so much for having me, Bobby, Indra, Melanie. I'm really active on LinkedIn, Marie Zimenoff. I'm the only Marie Zimenoff on LinkedIn, if you spell it right. And Career Thought Leaders also very active on LinkedIn and on Twitter at CareerTL. And of course, I'm at Work with Purpose. And we help career coaches, resume writers, leadership coaches, people in the career space build their career and their business, and we build a community. So we've got a free community on Facebook. If you're interested, if you're in that space and you want to connect with other people in that space, you can find us there. If you're looking for a career coach or resume writer, at careerthoughtleaders.com, you'll find a directory of service providers, people that can help you with your career and coach you under these topics as well. So thank you again, Bobby, Indra, Melanie. It was so fun to join you on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, Marie, thank you so much. And Melanie, what's going on with you this week? Anything you want to share with us?
So you're going to find me this week on Clubhouse, quite back on my regular schedule. So on Tuesdays at 6 p.m., it's Career Coaches on Call in the Thought Leadership Branding Club. And then on Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, you will also find me in the Thought Leadership Branding Club in LinkedIn 101. And it's for individuals that are, maybe you're on there and you just are like, hey, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm not getting results. Or you're a first timer. We just open our arms and say, let's have a good time for 1 hour. Let's answer your questions. Let's talk about our struggles and share successes as well as tips. So you can, and of course, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. And you can keep posted on all of the other activities that I do on a frequent basis.
Awesome. Indra, go ahead.
Okay, so actually on Wednesday, the Wednesday space in the Positivity Vibe Tribe, we are actually having our special guest of Bobby Umar. Yay! So super excited to have Bobby in the tribe, and it has been long awaited because he always is so busy. But do join us at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I've actually posted the space up in the nest. That is going to be an amazing space with my co-host Stephen Casciani and of course Sarah, and then of course then on Thursday there will be the space that I host with Success Minded. So we're looking forward to a great week and hope to see you all on Wednesday as I get to turn the tables and interview Bobby. And also sending you all love, light, and blessings for an amazing week.
Thanks so much for that. And, I want to say to everybody, thanks so much for being here. Thanks, Marie, for being an expert speaker. We do this every week, and, there's lots of value that we're giving in these rooms. And, I do other rooms too. So if you want to learn more about what I'm up to, certainly follow me, follow Indra and Melanie. I do rooms on LinkedIn Audio on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, to Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I do a Twitter space on LinkedIn Mastery on 3 p.m. on Sundays. And then, of course, the one here on Mondays. And in Clubhouse, I'm usually there on Mondays for Mindset at 4 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. for social selling. So lots of different ways to get involved. If you want to follow me, you can certainly follow my LinkedIn company page, my LinkedIn profile. You can follow me on Twitter and whatnot. Some things are kind of the pipeline for me. I'm starting I'm doing a TEDx. I'm going to be doing a TEDx event, how to land your TEDx talk and how I can guarantee you getting one. That's going to be, I believe, March 22nd, and then I'm doing a storytelling workshop under the Thought Leadership Brand Club, of which the first hour is free to learn all about storytelling, and then I'll do a deeper dive into how to help you build your 3-minute storytelling video so that you can actually start getting far more greater impact with your work out there. So, looking forward to seeing some of you guys there. If you want to learn more about what I'm up to and how I help people, feel free to ping me anytime. And if you love this space, you learn something from it, take a photo of the space. Take a look at the replay. Click and share the replay with your followers. If you tag me, next thing you know, and let people know the 3 things you learned today, I'll see it, and then I'll retweet to my 500,000 followers, which will hopefully get more people to see the replay, as well as more people to maybe follow you as well. So it's a win-win. All right. So with that, remember, relationships are the foundation of all of the greatest success we have in our personal, professional lives. If you want to advance in your life, personally, professionally, it's about building relationships, cultivating and leveraging heart leadership with values of heart, kindness, compassion, empathy, love, and all those types of things. And if you walk and speak with love as part of every single breath, I can guarantee you it's going to come back to you in spades with the karma you put out there. So keep working that love out there. Keep putting it out there. Keep giving and sharing and growing as a person. And I'll be here along the way to help you fly. So with that, all the best to you. Have a wonderful week. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. You're all my Valentines because I'm on cloud 9. Did that rhyme? I don't know. But thank you so much, everybody. And I'll see you later. Take care.